Recent posts. Categories. Check your internet and refresh this page. Key to Conversion Part 3. During the period in our country when African people were in bondage, the King James Version of the Bible was used successfully to persuade slaves to be obedient to their masters. The Bible was also an instrument that opened doors and gave African slaves the instrument to learn to read the King's English. Some slaves could learn to read the Bible exclusively for purposes designed for obedience. Although slaves were generally prohibited from reading, the King James Version of the Holy Bible was used as a teaching tool under certain circumstances. Many passages therein seemed to be inserted for slaves to consume, i.e., statements in Colossians 3:22, 1 Timothy 6:1, Ephesians 6:5, or Leviticus 25:44-46, to name a few. I will allow our readers to confirm the accuracy of this assertion. Slaves took to the Holy Bible as a fish would take to water. The scriptures therein provided refuge for slaves in the afterlife but guaranteed nothing in their current conditions. Slaves looked at the Bible as God's words, although many were only privy to certain scriptures and verses. Remember, reading was not allowed. Some of the older slaves were not convinced that the Bible spoke words that provided them peace or truth, as they were aware of God's presence from other teachings and environments but dared not discuss it. On the contrary, many slaves were so hooked on the Holy Bible that they believed every word. Their bond people demanded this. Who would be so brave to question God's words, especially while experiencing the most inhumane treatment known to humanity, with little refuge in sight? Their treatment was so cruel that no Bible verse adequately addressed their conditions. Therefore, their only choice was to do what the Romans do while in Rome. Things that are seen are temporal. Things not seen are everlasting. I am sure that the person who discovered the ability to convert negative energy into positive energy was cognizant of this biblical quotation. It only makes good sense. By the time slavery ended, black people did not know what or who to believe. They observed people held in the highest respect, such as judges, police officers, and preachers, to name a few, indulging in unbelievable acts. This conduct was so abhorrent that black people pretended it did not exist. Many worked for people committing heinous acts contrary to biblical teachings, but they supported them wholeheartedly for survival exclusively, praying for better times. Few would confirm the sordid acts of their bosses, sometimes to their chagrin. They needed a job for survival. Black people would not dare confront their bosses as their existence depended upon them. Therefore, they only spoke among themselves about their bosses. Some of their bosses were people of the cloth, and others were very prosperous. Slaves and their offspring are very aware of biblical scripture. Regardless of the situation, they have held back from judging others for many years because of this belief. The scriptures speak of judging others. One prerequisite for converting negative energy into positive resolve is that it must come from a genuine source. It cannot be simply a thought or assumption, it must be confirmed. The second requirement is that the harmful act or statement must be directed towards the individual or relative of one desiring to convert the negative energy to positive success. One cannot assume that a harmful act is directed toward them. It must be confirmed. One cannot also attempt to convert negative energy to retribution. Therefore, black people were extremely cautious not to offend God by judging others. These humble beliefs delayed the process of learning to convert negative energy to positive. Therefore, it took many years for them to gather an accurate assessment of how to proceed. Many were insecure in their thinking. Lastly, our current environment is ripe for converting negative energy into positive resolve, as many people in high places admit their transgressions, thereby confirming their evil ways. Some even use Jesus Christ as their sword or crutch to justify their wicked deeds. Most black people understand why this is occurring. Many are now wise enough to benefit from this horrific misjudgment. I frequently mention the long suffering of slaves in our country. This is not done to insult the struggles of other people. The reason for this is few people other than the descendants of the African slaves possess the genetic mutations to know these things from this perspective. It is difficult for most humans other than those mutated to imagine the horrific experience of slavery for such an elongated period. Once one indulges in this wisdom, one will understand the efforts necessary to endure inhumane treatment never known to humankind for such an extended season. Our entire planet can now learn from this experience and reap the benefits of this wisdom. Slavery is an experience that must be shared for the planet to understand its benefits. Our intentions are genuine indeed. Thoughts of color or national origin only restrict one's ability to use this process. Think as a human, not a race, and your journey will be smooth as silk. God has now enabled many who have been victims of vile conduct to free themselves from oppressive people, capable of engaging in any conduct necessary to satiate their desires, regardless of how egregious. Many can quietly convert the negative energy into a positive resolution, which the evil purveyors provide. This can be done by following a few basic acrobats absent financial input. Our yoke is so easy until we have provided most of the things one must know to convert negative to positive. It is a mental undertaking, and the results are excellent. As I write this blog, I see that many things contrary to belief are happening right before our eyes because of this new way of thinking. The entire plant is observing, and many are in total darkness and still refuse to accept this reality. Some ask what happens to those who provide evil that displeases God. We do not know, however. The teachings of Ma'at believe that when one performs an act that does not please God, that person will receive grief. Ma'at is an ancient Egyptian belief. The sparse information I have conveyed will enable some to understand a valuable lesson and start using it immediately without further advisement. Others will need more. Read our blogs, view our videos. They are provided to stimulate the brain to understand the mental process of people who endured harsh treatment for many centuries. These blogs will be illustrations that explain why these people think as they do. Minds are opened once one can step into the shoes of others and still walk. Once one understands the gist of the system and how it occurred, one will never doubt why humans globally need this valuable information. It is only natural. Check it out on our website. You can start immediately. www.ageofman.com